Scrappy people, Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with 4 foundation pages for my 2024 October daily using the Cocoa Daisy Cozy Season Collection. All 4 of these pages are going to be interactive and have lots of pockets. In fact, pretty sure all 4 of them are pockets. I like to do a mix of fall and Halloween in my October daily because not every day is Halloween. Well, okay, every day is Halloween in my home, but not everything that I scrapbook in my October daily is Halloween related. So I like to have a good mix of both. So I'm using the Cozy Season collection to make some foundation pages for more of my fallish themed layouts. Now I have cut down that plaid piece of paper to outside the page protector size for a 6x8 album, which is 8.5 by 6 7/8, and I am going to use some of these scrap papers and 6x8 papers from the scrapbook kit to create 4 pockets for tags for this page that are going to be adhered directly to the page. Now I have cut them down to 3.5 by 3.5, and I will be using my scoreboard to add 1/4 inch folds to the sides and the bottom. So that will make these pockets 3.5 or 3 inches by 3.25. Yeah, 3.25 inches. So I just used my scoreboard to add that 1/4 inch fold, and then I'm going to snip off these corners. The first thing I do is wrong. Just snip them in a diagonal, but no, they need to be fully cut off. I'm going to snip off the corners, and then I'm going to use red line tape to sort of hold it all together and then eventually to put it down onto my page. So here we go, cut off the corners. The red line tape, if I fold the sides over the bottom, the red line tape will hold the whole pocket together, like with the flaps folded, so that I can move them around and decide where I want each pocket to go. I'm going to create 3, I believe, out of pattern paper, and then I want to use a journal card for another one. So I'm going to actually create one of these pockets just on white cardstock because journal cards are 3x4, so I don't have that extra 1/2 inch to create the pocket on an actual journal card. So I'm going to use a white piece of cardstock to create the pocket, and then I will adhere the journal card over the pocket I created. So here you go, you can see the red line tape holding down the sides of the pocket. There we go. So here's me creating the cardstock one, and I'm going to use that sweater weather card that is going to be trimmed down a little bit. Perfect. Then one more I'm going to create out of that boot 6x8 paper with the words on it right there. That one, just for some contrast. Now I'm going to create some tags for each of these pockets, and I initially trimmed down this one, but I realized in a little bit that if I want to cut it to tag size, I can't clip those corners off. So I replace it. I'm using a mix of the journaling card style journal cards, the ones with actual lines for words, and a mix of pattern paper for photos. I might add some photos to the journaling card ones too. It just depends on how I end up using this page, but the ones with the pattern papers have enough space for like a 2.5 by 2.5 photo. You can also put photos on the outside of the pockets. It's just going to depend on what I'm using the page for. Okay, so I cut one into a tag and then used that one for a template to create the rest of the tags. Then I'm going to snip out little half circles on each of these tags. I forgot to do it to the first one before I put it down, so I'll have to pull it up and add that little half circle down there with the yellow tag. But I just want them all evenly spaced and appropriately placed so that the tags go all the way down and they're not sticking out of the page. Perfect. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of embellishment. This is the most embellished page I'm going to do. Most of these pages are going to be free from embellishment just because I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. So they're foundation pages, right? They're the base so that all of the hard work is done and the fun work can come during the month when it's crazy. I'm using the stamp set and some Catherine Pooler inks to just stamp some sentiments and leaves on the tags. And then I'm doing my favorite trick, which is using washi tape as ribbon. If you stick the washi tape to itself, you can create these fun little ribbons to go through your tags. So I just pull out a strip of washi tape, adhere it sticky side to sticky side, and then create these little tags, or these little ribbons for my tags by stapling them down. I'm going to do that for all 4 tags. And then stick this one down in here. I was having trouble with that one. I didn't want to go all the way down. And add some of these rub-ons in a couple places on these tags just to embellish the pockets a little bit further. I'm going to use that pumpkin down there and the wreath and that watercolor splotch as well. Then the last thing I'm going to do is add in some chipboard and also this word sentiment from the clear sticker sheet that is in the memory keeping stickers, and these little labels that I cut from one of the papers. I still have some left over from scrapbooking. So I'm going to put this here, and then I'm going to put one underneath that pumpkin as well. Then I'm going to call this page foundation page ready to go. Oops, forgot about the arrow. One more. I like the way that that kind of added to the center of that wreath. Perfection. All right, this page is done. The most embellished page. Oh, yes, the most embellished page, because I also added these little sticky dots, glitter ones, using the stickles, I think is what they are, from the creative kit. And once that dries, it'll be like, how cute. It'll be like enamel dots. How fun are those? Okay, next, let's move on to the next page, which is going to be another pocket page. So I started off these pockets with 6x4 pockets, and I'm going to actually change this up in just a second. But first I'm going to add these really pretty decorative edges to the outside of the pocket with this very complicated to use punch. Always got to line it up perfectly. But I managed to do it this time. Most of the time I screw it up, but this time I managed to do it on both pockets. It was a Christmas miracle, an October daily miracle. Not sure, but look how pretty that is. It's one of my favorites. So what I end up doing is I'm going to do the same thing I did with the last pockets and adhere these down with some red line tape, but I decided that they were too long and that they were covering up too much. And of course I decided that after I stuck them down and ruined that yellow paper, but luckily I managed to salvage the yellow paper. It was the last of the yellow paper I had in that size, so I wanted to make sure that I was able to use it and not waste it. So I'm going to put these down, decide that they are too big, and then I actually turned off my camera and went to bed because I was like, this is not working out the way I want it to. So then the next day I trimmed down the pockets so that they were not quite half the size, they're a little bit larger, and I backed them with these wood papers with rounded corners, and I'm going to use those instead. That way the photo or whatever I stick in there is going to stick out enough to be visible. You can see because I had that red line tape down all night, it had ripped up that paper, but it is going to almost completely cover all of that still because they're basically the same size. I just have a little bit of white up there that I can use an embellishment or something to cover up. It's actually going to be less than what you see here because this needs to move up. See, just a tiny, tiny bit that I can just cover up later. And I really like the way that this looks. It's a lot prettier, feels a lot more designed than the other one did. So I'm going to create 2 4x6 booklets, or I guess just folds, to go into this page. That's going to give me, it's not going to be quite 4x6. They're going to be 5.5, yep, 5.5 by 4. Oh wait, it's going to be slightly smaller, yep. It's going to give me 3 spots, 4 technically if I wanted to use the bag, but 3 spots on each of these folded papers for photos, for journaling, for embellishment, whatever I want to add in here. I'm really looking to maximize what I can do on a single page this year because I want to use one 6x8 album if possible. So I'm really hoping to be able to document each of my days on either one page or just, adding in a large photo as well next to it. We'll find out. We'll see if I can manage it. That is not something that I'm good at. I am a very extra scrapbooker, so I always have at least 2 albums for all of these special albums, but we'll see. Taking that 3x4 card that I actually trimmed down in the last, well, not in the last video, but for the last page, and I'm going to mat it on this yellow 3x4 card and put that on the outside here. I can either use that for journaling, or I can add a photo if I want to, or I can just add some embellishment over it later because I'm going to have lots of room for photos. One thing I really like about this specific page is that I have a lot of room for horizontal photos, which is not something that really gets photographed or documented very well in these size albums for me. I don't use a lot of horizontal photos because you have such limited room. If they are horizontal, they get made a lot smaller. So I love that I have room for at least 6 if I wanted 6 on this page. So I'm just using these white cardstock pieces as a placeholder for photos later. I can either leave them down and have white photo mats, or I can just pull it up later and replace it with the photo. I'm using these tabs from, I don't know if they were from the Creative Kit or from the Scrapbook Kit, but one of the die cut packs. And I'm just using them to make it easy to pull out these booklets. Then I'm going to add a couple more things on the inside of the books. The 4x6 card here looked perfect for a little placeholder. I trimmed it down just slightly because remember, these are not quite 4x6, so I just cut off some extra room around the outside edges, also because I wanted to make sure that that blue, beautiful blue background was visible. Then I trimmed down a journaling card too and added a couple extra white photo blocks just in case. Lastly, I'm going to add some stenciling from the Creative Kit to this page. So I want to add some leaves here, and I was going to use texture paste, but I decided to go with the glitter instead, and it's very, very thin. I'm not sure that it reads quite as well as I had wanted it to, or as well as it would have with texture paste, but it was an experiment and it works. I might use it differently next time. You can see I'm taking a paintbrush, a small paintbrush, and just kind of filling in the edges. When it dried, I did the same thing again on the other corner. And then I'm going to put something in the center just as a nice little centerpiece once this one dries. Spreading it out, making sure it's not too thick. And I'm going to put this sticker that came with the kits. If you're a subscriber, it's like their little extra sticker. Very cute. Moving on. Those are the most complicated ones, I think. They're not complicated, but they definitely took me the most effort. All right, moving on to the next page. We're going to do, what are we going to do? Moving on. Here we go. Okay. Oh, yes. So this page I'm going to trim down to 12 by 8.5 so that I can fold it in half. I kind of wanted to keep as much of the leafy part as possible, so I'm just trimming in stages so that I can cut off as little leaf as possible. Perfect. So that makes this so that I can fold it in half now with my scoreboard, which makes it easier, of course. I'm actually not going to fold it in half though. I'm going to fold it so that this is a pull out page. So it scored at 6 7/8, and then I tried to score in the middle here with what was left, but I went the wrong way, so it's a little off center and I had to trim it. That's okay. So I'm going to accordion fold this so that it pulls out instead of being completely folded over. All right, there we go. So now you can see when I pull it out, it opens that way. And I'm going to create some placeholders here, circle placeholders for letters later. It's probably going to end up being fall. It's 4 letters, so that makes sense. But who knows? I didn't put the letters on there just so that I could have a choice later. So I cut out 6 circles, and I'm going to adhere them halfway across this opening. And this flap. And then I'm going to cut the half circle or the other circles in half to create half circles for the back, just so that there was some cohesion. And I thought it looked a little bit weird with like those random boots images on the back here. So I'm just going to instead back them with the brown. Then I realized I cut the wood grain differently because I'm a dork. So I'm going to just alternate vertical and horizontal wood grain. Then I got out my sewing machine, amazingly enough, and I sewed it all down, making sure that I sewed after the fold so that it wouldn't screw up the fold. I sewed it all down so that they were nice and sturdy because they're going to be moved around a lot. And then I decided that this was super cool, but not quite enough for a complete foundation page. Like I didn't have quite enough direction going on here. So I'm going to create a photo mat for a large photo. And I think I do 4x6, maybe. It can be a little bit larger than that, but I think I did 5x6. I don't know. Then I decided that that yellow was not quite, like it didn't stand out quite enough, so I backed it with the blue instead, which made it even bigger. And then I went whole hog and decided I wanted a pocket to slide this into. So later, if I decide I don't want a pocket, I can just, adhere this over it. But I thought a pocket would be fun and another interactive way to play with this page. So I got out my T-square. It's actually a Cocoa Daisy T-square I got a million years ago, and made some lines and then drew a line between them so that I could follow that line with my X-Acto knife. I need to pluck that gray hair. Silver. It's silver tinsel. Alright, so now I'm going to slide this right in here and use foam tape on the back so that it has enough lift so that it's easy to slide in and out of the page. So I'm going to use foam tape as like a guardrail at the bottom and the sides, and then I have to add a little bit more foam tape just to make sure that the whole thing has some structure. So top and sides so that the card goes in the slot right. And then up here too, just so that there's some heft behind the page. This is going to add a little bulk to my album, but I don't know, I think it's worth it. Perfect. So I can add a photo or whatever I want. I can add journaling to this later. Decided if I was going to sew one thing, I might as well sew some other stuff, so I went ahead and put this through my sewing machine as well. And then of course I sewed way too far in, so I'll probably end up having to re-sew this once I have a photo down. That's okay. It's decorative. Dun, da, da, da. Look at me getting out the sewing machine. Cute. All right, we have one more page, and it's going to be yet another pocket, a different kind of pocket. I love how the stitching looks on this. I need to get out my sewing machine more often. I just redid my whole office to make things more accessible, so hopefully I will be getting out my sewing machine more often. Okay, so I have this all of these papers are 12 inches wide, and then I have a few paper strips that are not quite as tall. And I'm going to create a double-sided pocket here with a pocket in the middle, just because pockets, 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 that's the name of this video. So I have burnished it so it's nice and stiff around the edge, nice good fold. Now I'm going to do the same thing for both of these smaller flaps. And these are going to create the pockets. And then I'm going to just create a little slight angle so that when it wraps around, it's not just a straight edge. And then I'm going to make sure when I cut the other one, this one, after scoring it in the middle, that I go the opposite direction so that they don't go the same way. Just for my own taste. I could have done it both directions, it would have been the same, and that would have been fine too, but I just want them to go opposite directions. And now, because this was a 12 by 12 paper originally, there is not that extra space on this page to have like the holes, because I would have needed almost a 7-inch page. So I'm going to add these holes that I created. This is a cut file I created for December Daily. I will link it below. It is free to extend this page. So now it will fit in the rings without having to cut holes in the pocket itself. And of course I did this wrong. I should have trimmed this before I put those down. So when I put this down, I realized that this is going to be all not quite lined up on the edge because of the fold. It doesn't reach all the way to the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and take those holes out, or that insert out, trim down the edges so that you don't have all of those weird overlapping pieces. You can see right there on the edge. And then I put it back in. Now I'm going to take my sewing machine again, gasp, and I'm going to sew the whole thing down along the edges to create the pockets. Just this one outside edge and this bottom edge will be perfect. And I decided to go ahead and do this edge too, just so it matched. Perfect. I love it. Look at sewing. So now I have 3 pockets on each side and a pocket in the center. So I need to have something for the center. I'm going to cut out this half circle so that you can tell that there's a pocket at the top. Look how cute this is. I love that pumpkin paper. I love, love, love this leaf paper too, and I was trying desperately to save it as a 12 by 12, but it was the last 12 by 12 paper that I had, so I had to use it. I'm actually going to fold it so that the so that the plaid is on the outside and the leaf is on the inside, just because I think that the similarity of the leaf to the style of the pumpkin background was a little bit much, just for visual sake. So the brown goes in here instead. And then I need to trim it a little bit more. It's a little too tall, just to compensate for that stitching down there at the bottom. And then I'm going to leave it the way that it is, no decoration, just ready to play with later. I'll add this cute little clip that came in the creative kit just for fun. And then that is it. Those are all 4 of my pages for this collection for my October daily. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. And I will see you next time. Thank you.